Hello, welcome, thank you. I think it's Health Illness Update number 24. We're at the end of June here. June, I think 23rd, something like that. Yeah, 23rd. I'm sitting out here by the fire, finished teaching classes for today. It's pretty hot and sweaty, and I'm tired from classes and by the fire and the humidity and heat. First of all, thank you, everybody, for the support. Those of you guys just tuning in looking for the way that you can support, you can go to GoFundMe, GoFund.me/9024 B as in boy 907. GoFund.me/9024 B 907. That'll take you to where you can help. I think there's another code that will take you to it on the underneath the license plate and whatever that code is. But there's our GoFundMe current status. I suppose. Yeah, it says there's our what we've raised and spent. It's not spent. It's raised though, which is not at all nothing. And let's see if I can show you the here's our current balance, and I didn't call up my my healthcare balance. It's probably 8,000. I don't remember, and I just didn't call it up. So anyway, our last get together here digitally was the end of May or middle May. That date was May 18th. So I'm going to just check out my calendar. May 18th was right after I had gotten back from the oncology follow-up, which was May 17th. So that means my next thing was June 5. That was my ultrasound. The oncologist had said that they weren't too happy with how the hernia was looking. I think the term was something like nodulification, that she had concern over from the CT scan. And so she wanted to get what she called like a better look, and I guess the ultrasound is a better resolution for that sort of thing. And she said that looks like a resurgence of cancer, return of cancer. And she did tell me, she said, look, I don't know if it is, but I'd rather presume it is and act that way. And so for her, that means the next step is a better look. Anyway, I did that. I guess it was the 5th of June. And I got my results obviously soon after. And I saw the doctor sometime after that. I think the 10th. So on the 10th I went in to get my port flush. I still have that there, which they want to use for chemo. So I still have that implant, so like jugular access for the chemotherapy, basically access to a bigger vein than through the arms. So anyway, I went in then on Monday the 10th, and I got the results of the ultrasound. I had already read the report, but I got them from the doctor, who I saw, that same day, the 10th. So the good news, she said, she no longer thinks that it's a cancerous concern. So that's good. That's not the same as saying it isn't, but she was comforted. I don't see it in here, but I know that I saw Dr. Peters in there before I saw her, so I feel like I just scrolled. Yeah, it was the 5th. Oh, I see. So it was the same day. That's why I scrolled. So after I got the ultrasound, I had a few hours and I returned to the same building and I saw Dr. Peters before she heads off to Philadelphia. I was one of her last patients. That was the radiation oncologist. And she said she looked at the results, from the radiation to the lungs, after I'd done some healing. So after the radiation finished and a period of healing. And she said both things looked like, or both things did shrink, both tumors, I don't know what the right term is, but both areas of concern had shrunk. And I asked her about it, wondering, was the expectation that they shrink or they disappear or they shrink more or less than they did? Because I wasn't really sure if the idea is that you'd erase them. But she said they were small to begin with. They're smaller now. She didn't say much smaller. She said smaller. She said that is, I don't know how she put it, but something like excellent or better than can be expected. So she was very happy with how I responded to the treatment clinically, but also how I was responding to it, let's say, in terms of my fortitude otherwise. I was in good spirits and I didn't have much in the way of side effects, that sort of thing. She also looked at the ultrasound that had just been done a little bit before, and she said, look, I saw the one before this, I saw the CT scan before this, and I don't think that that's a cancerous concern. But the other doctor wanted to get a better look, and now I get to see the ultrasound, and she said, I've now seen the ultrasound, I don't think it's anything. And then I read the report when I got home. And so by the time I got to see Dr. Lim, whatever that date was, like the 12th or whatever I was saying, I was, I guess, put at ease in terms of, cancer or not, I guess. Okay, so where are we? May 23rd. Okay. Yeah, so May 23rd, I went in and saw Dr. Rubenstein. He's my GP, and he didn't have, he was happy with my blood work, and it was pretty much, he was telling me his life story kind of appointment, which I think is good, because he didn't feel like he had to tell me a bunch of things we need to intervene with and change with medication or anything. So overall, I kind of felt like I saw him, he saw me in my chart, but I didn't have much in the way of changes. So I'm going back and forth a little bit. May 24th, I went in to see pulmonology. So that was kind of an odd visit. I thought I was following this in chronological order, but basically I have my appointments in yellow, so they should stand out, the health appointments, so they should stand out. But when I look at it as the month, it only shows me some of the day, and if there's yellow there, I can find it. But if it happened later or earlier in the day, it looks, so I don't see it. So I changed the view to show me 3 days, and hopefully. Anyway, I went into Dr. Labori, and it was kind of an odd appointment because I didn't see the doctor. I saw what I guess would be a pulmonology therapist, respiratory therapist, I guess. And they gave me another lung. I didn't really do vitals. I don't think I did vitals there. She just did me the respiratory test, the lung function test, I think they called it. And I was flying colors, as I have always been there. I think that was my third time doing that. And for whatever reason, I didn't see the doctor, but it was definitely, I was supposed to. So they gave me another appointment. So something weird happened in the office, I guess. So then I saw Dr. Lim, which I was, so Dr. Peter was June 5th. That's the ultrasound, and then the radiation oncologist. And then I went to the port flush, and now I'm caught up June 10th, and went to Dr. Lim. So I asked Dr. Lim, I said, it sounds like we got our blood work, which doesn't look like it's showing cancer. We got a CT scan, which looks pretty good, especially in terms of new cancer. When we're talking about the hernia. The hernia is where I had my midline incision and ostomy. So those are herniating post-surgical intervention. And I said, and so she said, so the blood is good, the CT scan is good. Now we've done the ultrasound, that's good. So we've kind of had 3 looks at it. And my next step is now to schedule something with the surgeon to get the hernia repaired. And that means opening me all the way up again and basically doing a patch for everything rather than a bunch of small band-aids, a big patch, which is, I think, like a polyethylene patch. I wrote down what it's made of, but I think that might be it. But at any rate, she said, well, or I asked her, and she agreed that, well, that'll be a 4th look at this situation in terms of ctDNA, in terms of blood work, in terms of CT scan, in terms of ultrasound, and now 5th, I guess it is 5th if we include the ctDNA. 5th meaning we're looking at the surgeon will literally be in there, and if it's a thing of concern, they can take it out then. And I had asked, I said, look, if we think it's cancer, is it likely that we go in with surgery, fix the hernia, resect whatever the issue is, send it to the lab, and then probably start chemo? And she said, yeah. But now the last ctDNA was NED, meaning no evidence of disease. The last CEA, I don't remember the number, but it's better, it's low, it's good. I don't remember if it's lower than it's ever been or lower ring. So I just don't remember where it is in the scheme of things. But basically, everybody's happy with my CEA numbers. That's like the cancer blood test, like it's sort of generic, I guess. So then Dr. Lim said what she wanted to do is see me every 2 months for a ctDNA scan, which I'm in the middle of scheduling. They sent the reagent kit here. I'm trying to schedule with the phlebotomist to come get my blood and do that. Is to do a ctDNA test every 2 months as well as a CT scan. She said ordinarily, or the insurance is likely to want to do it every 3 months, and they might not pay for that. So I said I think we should just do it, even though I can't afford it. That leads me to asking you for your support. But I thought if she'd rather do it every 2 months, so would I, even if the insurance doesn't agree. But she said she'd argue with insurance and try and get it. So, who knows? And then she said if we're happy with the every 2 month, which I think she meant just the first time in 2 months, but she might have meant a few 2 month intervals. I don't know, but I think it was just initial interval 2 month. But anyway, she said if the 2 month interval or intervals are good, then she'd expand it to 3 months, which my understanding is that insurance is likely to be happy about that and cover it. So that's nice. But then my thought is I want to update my COVID vaccination, but the new one won't be out till September. So if I get the latest one now, which I feel like I'm kind of in the clear in terms of all the needs for doctors, I'd like to get it in me and not have it in me too recently, such that it interferes with scheduling like my operation or whatever else if they started chemo. And they're not, because everything was looking good. That's the short version. So where does that leave us? So if I get the most recent shot, the new one that is supposed to be, better tweaked to address the latest mutation, will be out in September, but then I won't be able to get it because I'll have had one too recently, i.e. June or July. So right now my plan is to try and wait until that one's available, but I think I might rather get one, let's say they want to schedule me at the end of July for surgery. I think I might rather get an update in me before I'm in the hospital. But that's to be determined. and maybe I just have to learn to take the advice I get and not try and do my own thinking around what's best. So I talked, so this week, today's, what did we say, 23rd? So it's Sunday, so the 21st, I don't remember. A couple days ago, I saw my GP, Dr. Rubenstein, for my annual, and he said everything's good, like cholesterol, blood pressure, so he tested me. I have had this little bit of wheezing, which I mentioned to Dr. Lim. She said it could be allergies. I've never had that before. It's very, very slight, but I thought I should mention it in light of my having had lung work. The doctor who's leaving, Dr. Peters, did say, look, I could still reach the office even though she's leaving if anything comes up. And I think she said I could still start seeing effects, I think, over the next 6 months. I put it in my notes, but something like that. So she said, just because I haven't had any doesn't mean it might not happen. And she said, basically that would mean we put you on a steroid regimen. Like if I'm short of breath, or I think coughing was another one. I think there was 3 signs to look out for, but I haven't had them, and I have my notes. So I saw my GP. I'm going to see him again in November, and then again, a year from now in August for my annual. So that was good to get that set up. And then I go back to, Dr. Lim. Dr. Rubenstein was on the 20th. I go back to Dr. Imiv Bore, the pulmonologist, on July 5th. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he says, especially in light of surgery, in light of COVID, in light of the condition of my lungs after all the CT scans. What do they see? I'm really glad. Hopefully he'll be there and it'll be fine. And then I booked with Dr. Duffy for the hernia surgery consultation, which will be July 10th. So originally I'd seen him once, and I was planning to see him again to lock down, I guess they want to see me in person, and lock down surgery situation for the hernia repair. But then they saw the CT scan of the lungs, and that sent me off to the radiologist, and that means Dr. Duffy got put on a back burner, I guess. So all along I've asked all the doctors to keep him in the loop about where I am. So hopefully I'm still in his mind or on his, table. And once I got the all clear from Dr. Lim and my Dr. Rubenstein, I reached out to Dr. Duffy and I said, look, unless things take a urgent turn for the worse and I get rushed to the hospital, which could still happen at any moment, because I could have a twisting intestine or an intestine that begins to encroach on nerves or blood, and that will debilitate me, and then it's an emergency thing. My understanding is if that happens, they tend to that problem and repair the hernia when they put me back together. I think that's the idea. And that might very well be Duffy on an emergency basis. So I see him July 10th. My expectation is that he'll say everything looks good for surgery. Here's my schedule. And then I'll just have to arrange things with my life and my classes around that, and have to go through that whole process of recovering from, big open torso surgery. But I've done it before, and I feel more able to do it now than before. So I'm not really concerned. It'll be nice to do it. And my feeling is that if I can start recovering from that, and then I have to do chemo again, I'm already on the recovery side. I wouldn't want this to interfere with the chemo, or the chemo to interfere with this. And I also would like to coordinate the COVID updated immunization in there as well. So that's part of my thinking. I did ask my Dr. Rubenstein about Dr. Duffy doing the surgery, and he said, listen, that is the only doctor I would have do this kind of surgery on you. And I thought, well, that's a little more specific than he's really good, you're lucky to have him, which I think every doctor says about every surgeon, partly to put you at ease. But then he followed that up by saying, that's who I had do my hernia surgery. And I thought, okay, that's pretty good. So I was already content with Dr. Duffy, just having met him twice in his staff. But that's better to hear that than not, I think. So I think that's that's where I'm left. My plan is to, by the way, try and go to Philadelphia to teach for Free Training Day, try to go up to Exeter, New Hampshire to teach at Craig's school. He's got a special event. I think it's at the end of August. But everything's up in the air. And also November, I'm supposed to go to Free Training Day in New Hampshire. So everything's up in the air in terms of surgery. I'm going to just probably say yes to whatever date they want to do it. And then perhaps it interferes with one of these events or more. Perhaps it doesn't. In the ideal world, I can come home from one of those events and then do the surgery the next day or two and then recover before the next event. Perhaps it'll work out that way. Anyway, once I'm laid up with surgery, I'll definitely need more help with people coming by to, mow the lawn or deliver groceries or deliver a meal, or certainly just helping out the way they've been helping out with GoFundMe and so forth. So I think that's the whole. I think that's the whole list. There's our GoFundMe link. Hopefully that will work for everybody. Very grateful for y'all. Love. And check out somedayfarm.org and patreon.com/somedayfarm. That's a really great way that you can just be subscribed and have a monthly way to help me and have access to a whole bunch of lessons. Thank you. Love.